What's up, guys? Let me make a quick little how-to video here for you, since I'm in the middle of doing a bunch of brake work on one of my customers' work trucks. So I'm going to show you how to bench bleed a master cylinder. And why this is important is because you have a bunch of little diaphragms and everything in here where the brake fluid feeds in here, okay? And then you have a cup seal here and a cup seal here. So what you'll have is a bunch of air get trapped in here when you fill this thing. And if you don't bench bleed it, then you have to push all that air out through your brake lines and out through your bleeder screws. Versus if you bench bleed it, you get it out right here on the bench, and it just takes a very short amount of time. Give me 1 second, y'all. Okay, back to it. So anyway, as I was saying, it's a lot faster to get the air out when you have it on the bench and you're just bleeding the air out here versus pushing it all the way out your brake lines and everything else. So what you're going to need to do this is some kind of vise. You can also clamp this to a workbench somehow. It can be a little tricky because you have your bleed ports and all that stuff here, or you have your brake line ports. You're going to need preferably a Phillips head screwdriver to put in your master cylinder piston and push that as you're bleeding it. Which they were nice enough to provide with this new master cylinder, but you are going to need some kind of plugs or fittings to put in your brake line openings. So they provided these little caps that just thread in here. These are 2 different sizes. So they thread in here, plastic, so it doesn't screw in the best when you're going into metal with plastic threads. But they just screw in here like so. Okay. So then I'm going to find a way the device will hold this. You don't want to put too terribly much pressure on this housing. Just enough to hold it so it's not moving around while you're trying to bench bleed this. Let me see what I can do to move you guys just a little bit closer. Alright, I'm back and you guys have a little better view. So we're going to take our master cylinder cap off, reservoir cap. You may have a master cylinder without a reservoir for your new one. You may need to actually put a new or your old reservoir onto your master cylinder. Okay, let's always use a new sealed unopened bottle of brake fluid. If you didn't know, brake fluid is extremely hygroscopic, which means it's going to attract moisture. So an open bottle of brake fluid, even with the cap on, will take the moisture out of the air. That's how hygroscopic this is. It means it readily bonds with water. So we're going to fill our reservoir here. Okay, reservoir's full. You really just need to make sure that this, because you see how I have this whole master cylinder in an angle here, you need to make sure that this pickup back here, or whichever one you have higher, however you have it rigged up, make sure that both your pickups are submerged in brake fluid. Okay, so then all we're going to do is take our Phillips, and it kind of helps to hold this guy. This is not the easiest thing in the world to push, and you don't want to go all the way. You don't want to push this piston as far as it will go. You just want to take really short strokes with it. You're just going to do this a few times. Okay, so I gave it a handful of pumps there. And then we're going to open our little bleeder caps. And this is going to get a little messy. Okay, no fluid there yet. Our fluid level's still good, so I'm going to keep pumping just a little bit. What I find helpful is to back these out just a few turns so that they're not seating against, there we go. So we got fluid coming out of that one now. Back these out just a few turns so that they're not completely seating against the inverted flare in here, because then you will actually allow brake fluid to come out, but it doesn't readily allow air to come back in. Okay, so we're just going to give... Okay, we got plenty of fluid coming out of this one. So I'm going to tighten that just a hair. Okay, lost some fluid, so I'm going to top back up. Okay. Okay, now we have fluid coming here. I'm going to put this cap on. When you get these really full, as you're pumping, fluid will try to come out here, especially if there's air in your brake lines or air here. It's going to force its way back up and spew fluid out the top. Okay. So now we're going to tighten that. And we're going to do this the same way that you would bleed brakes. We're going to build some pressure. Let it off. Tighten up while we're holding this piston compressed. Then we're going to back off. Pump it just a couple of times. Let it off. Oh, I'm really glad that didn't just spray my phone. Okay. I'm going to put that guy back in, and now we have fluid at both of our ports, and I'm not getting very much air anymore. So that's a good sign. And we're done. We have successfully bench bled our master cylinder, and it is now ready to go over and go onto the truck. Also, when you're working with brake fluid, make sure that you wear gloves. This stuff is really, really caustic, and it's bad for your skin, so you don't want to get it on you. Anyway, that wraps it up for this little tutorial. Let me know if you have any questions or suggestions for other ones that I should do.